always entertaining Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, Sully, nice to be back. How are you?
You've been jonesing for this, man.
Yeah, I have. I enjoy my Saturday morning radio. It's, part of a 10-month routine. So when it's taken away, I didn't know what to do with myself at 9 a.m. over the summer. So,
well, hopefully you got 2 or 3 Diet Cokes in you. You're ready to lay some knowledge on us.
Absolutely. And kind of a weird, goofy night last night with all the lightning and the weather delays and games being continued today and Monday. Kind of, for the first full week of a high school football season, a lot went on last night.
What was your impression? I know you were over there at Mainland. We had Chuck Smith on earlier in the show, and really nice to see that program sort of on the upswing.
Yeah, I mean, 2 things I kind of take away from last night. Well, actually, a couple things. First of all, you mentioned I was over at Mainland. 2-0 for the first time since 2009. Mainland, obviously one of the great programs in the state in the late 90s, mid to late 90s and early 2000s, winning South Jersey championships, great players. So Dave Clemick last night, he was doing color for Mainland TV. They show the games on YouTube. He was a great player at Mainland in the mid-1990s and things like that. And really the Mustangs defense played great last night. Sonny Frazier came up with a big game. Drew DeMore at Taekwon Campbell, and they shut out Absegami. And now they've won 2 games this season and only given up 6 points all season. And they got their first home win since Thanksgiving of 2016. 2-0 for the first time since 2009, so things headed in the right direction at Mainland, and that's really good to see.
Yeah, I remember last year during the preseason, Coach Smith was real high on DeMore at it. Hey, keep an eye on this kid. He's going to be a great linebacker, and then he gets hurt and misses basically the entire year. But with him and Frazier back there, and we talked about Coach Smith, about those 2 kids and what great character kids they are, straight-A students, really the leaders of that program. And what did you see out of those 2 guys last night that really impressed you?
Well, I thought they and the whole Mainland defense just were able to make opportune plays. They got a tackle for loss at the right moment. I mean, it's funny, the score was 27-0, but Mainland scored. The game was kind of closer than that. Now, I know it sounds like a cliche, but Mainland scored, I think, 17 points in a 2-minute span in the second quarter, taking advantage of some turnovers that Absegami made. The game was Absegami's opener, and they had some, inexperienced kids at some key positions, and I think they might have had some first-game jitters. But I'm sure they'll get out of their system and clean up as they go on the rest of the way. And I think Mainland was able to take advantage of those mistakes and turn them into points and get a victory. And you mentioned the character of some of the Mainland kids. I thought in the story today that I wrote for the Press of Atlantic City, and that's online at pressofac.com, I thought Chuck Smith told a great story about how, the team was 1-9 each of the past 2 seasons, and it comes to that first Monday in December when it's time to start lifting weights to prepare for this season, and they're going to lift at 5:30 in the morning, and I guess Chuck is thinking, hey, who when I open up the doors, who's going to be there, after a 1-9 season? And he opens up the doors, and there's 30-something kids ready to go, and that sort of character and that hard work is paid off for Mainland so far this season.
Yeah, you're worried it's just going to be you and 2 assistant coaches hanging out having some coffee.
Exactly. And some donuts or something,
Another interesting game last night that I was at, Egg Harbor Township and Ocean City, and Ocean City really showed a lot of toughness there. They had to deal with an early deficit. They had to deal with a 30-minute lightning delay, some sputtering offense in the first quarter. Really nothing was going their way until about halfway through the second quarter, but they really turned it on. They're a pretty good team there in Ocean City. They got a lot of talent, and it'll be interesting to see how they can navigate this schedule.
Yeah, I think, that was going to be my, you hit it perfectly right there. That's my second takeaway from last night. I was curious to see how Ocean City would play against an EHT team that had some momentum. EHT had won their final 2 games of last season. They come out last week and beat Atlantic City 21-8 to open up the season. And, I'd heard a lot of good things about Ocean City in the preseason, and they kind of confirmed it last night. You kind of like to see a nice game out of their quarterback, Ian Ox. He's kind of a program kid, a senior who's waited around, for 3 years to get his opportunity, and now he is. And when you see kids like that succeed, program kids, I mean, they're really kind of what high school sports is all about. And you see Lashley have another great game, great pitcher in baseball, pitcher in shortstop. comes through on the football field last night. So, I mean, Ocean City is going to be something to kind of look for to see how they're doing. Coming off the 7-3 season, I think they've got Bridgeton next week, and then maybe Absegami the week after. So, Ocean City with some potential and establishing themselves as a team to watch this season.
Mike, that West Jersey Football League Independence Division is going to be pretty fun to watch. It's kind of wide open when you think about it. I mean, I don't think anybody expected Mainland to get off to a 2-0 start. You also have Oakcrest won their season opener. So a lot of teams that are kind of right in the same boat there in terms of getting the next step in the rebuilding process. Obviously, Ocean City's a little bit further than some of these other schools, but by no means is Ocean City a runaway favorite in that division.
Well, I mean, absolutely. When I looked at that division, I thought it was one of the most interesting around. First of all, it's kind of a true old-time Cape Atlantic League division. All the teams in there are Cape Atlantic League teams, so, it gives you a little nostalgia there. And second of all, like you said, it was teams that were kind of all in the same boat at the start of the season. I mean, a lot of teams that were kind of rebuilding, that were looking to take a step forward. I mean, Ocean City was 7-3 last season, but they did graduate the quarterback in Harry Feifel. They did graduate a good running back in Robertson. So you kind of said, are they going to drop off a little bit? So you kind of looked at those 5-6 teams and said, hey, these teams are all pretty even. Who's going to break out? Because somebody is. Somebody's going to have that good season. Somebody's going to break out of that division. And so far, when you look at it, Mainland's 2-0, Ocean City with a good win last night, and you mentioned Oakcrest. They go up to Bridgeton and win, and I know although they were 2-8 last season, they bring back a core of 20-21 seniors, so they kind of got high hopes over there in Oakcrest. So that's another team to watch. So you're right. That division, when you look at it, I look at it because to me it's a Cape Atlantic League division, and it gives you some nostalgia for the Cape Atlantic League. And two, somebody's going to break out of that group. And so far, you've got some good candidates, some teams off to good starts.
I think that's going to be a dogfight all the way through to the end of October, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Ocean City and Mainland play in late October. And if they were to get together, if they were to continue this success and get together in late October with maybe a division on the line or their playoff future on the line, that would be, one of the biggest games of the year to look at right there, because it's a big game anytime in any sport when Ocean City and Mainland play.
We're talking with Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. And, Mike, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the big boys, the heavyweights of South Jersey. St. Augustine Prep got back on track with a pretty convincing win over Lenape, 30-6 last night. And you got the start of the season for one of the top teams in the state, if not the region, in St. Joseph today. Yeah,
St. Joe, actually, they opened up with that big win in Connecticut last week.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Camden Hall, but they make their New Jersey debut today. In fact, after that, I'll be headed out to Hamilton to watch Millville play St. Joe. And I think, I'm anxious to see, what St. Joe is. Obviously, 12-0 last year, number one in our Elite 11. Jada Byers runs for 267 yards and 6 touchdowns last week. Interested to see what St. Joe does, and interested to see what Millville does. Millville, is there a public school in the state of New Jersey that's played a tougher schedule than Millville so far this season? I don't think there is. Millville opens with St. Peter's Prep, a non-public force school out of Jersey City up north, not only one of the top programs in the nation, in the state, but also the nation. They lose 35-6, but the game is only 12-6 at halftime. So Millville is right there with them. We'll see what Millville, Dennis Thomas, the Millville coach, said they came out of the game healthy. They're ready to go. They love the competition. So noon at the end of North 2nd Street in Hamilton, I'm interested to see, what Millville can bring against St. Joe and how St. Joe responds. And you mentioned St. Augustine. Big win for St. Augustine last night. I mean, people say it's week 2 of the high school football season or week 1 of the high school football season. Can you have a big win? Absolutely. St. Augustine opens with a loss to a very good State College, Pennsylvania team last week. They got Lenape, the defending South Jersey Group 5 champion, coming in. They've got St. Joe next Friday night. They don't want to be 0-2 going into that St. Joe game and facing St. Joe with an 0-2 record. So they've got to get a win to sort of stabilize their season. And St. Augustine did it. And what I like about the win is St. Augustine put some points on the board. They scored 30 points, I think, or 30-something points. I thought their offense kind of sputtered a little bit against State College. So they were able to put some points on the board and sort of stabilize the season, and now they'll get ready. I'm sure their coaches will be out in Hamilton today, too, watching St. Joe play as those two schools get ready to meet each other next Friday night in what will be, the game of the week next Friday, whenever this week ends with all the rain and postponements and reschedules and everything.
Talking with Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. And, Mike, we talk so much about Jada Byers, rightfully so. He's an outstanding running back. But the thing, if I was an offensive coordinator, I would need the extra large bottle of Tums when I look at that defensive line for St. Joe.
Well, yeah, the defensive and offensive lines, and I think that's what really differentiates this St. Joe team from past great St. Joe teams is the linemen up front. Wisdom Quashie, Sean Morris, Brad Lomax, Tucker Monaco. I mean, Morris and Quashie are both 300 pounds, and they're athletic, and they're quick. I think Morris plays some tight end on offense. And St. Joe, as I talked to Coach Paul Sacco in the preseason, St. Joe has had some great linemen over the years. They've had a lineman like Quashie, like a Morris, like a Lomax, but they've never had a group like this together. And, I think that's what really differentiates this St. Joe team is the size and athleticism of the offense and defensive lines. It's simply tough to run the football on the Joeys.
Imagine being a 16-year-old guard and you're looking across at Sean Morris.
I wouldn't want to be, basically, or being a defensive back and watching him come out of the backfield, on a pass route for tight end. So, their size, they've obviously a great program in St. Joe over the years. They've had great players, plenty of great players. But what differentiates this team and the chance to make it one of the best teams in school history is the depth, the size, and athleticism of the offense and defensive lines.
Mike, I know you're kind of all consumed by football the last couple of weeks, but we got the Cherokee Challenge going on today for cross-country. Give us a name or two we should be looking for during the cross-country season. I know we kind of lost some great runners, especially Alyssa Aldridge and, girls like Alexa Weber from Ocean City, but there's a ton of really good girls runners back this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens up at Cherokee today. That's one thing, although I'll be out in Hamilton today for football, and then I plan to go up to Camden to watch the second half of a game that was delayed last night in the Cedar Creek. The Cedar Creek, 2-0 lead in the first half over Camden when that game was delayed by lightning. So kind of do a double hitter, go up there and catch the second half of that game. But you mentioned a runner. I mean, Alexa Palmieri of Ocean City comes to mind, and the Cherokee Challenge, where you run against your class. Seniors run against seniors, juniors run against juniors, sophomores run against sophomores, freshmen run against freshmen. 2-mile course out there at Cherokee. So the start of the cross-country season, it'll be interesting to see who emerges, because like you said, you've got some tremendous runners, chiefly Alyssa Aldridge, a Mainland Regional graduate and kind of move on. She's at Georgetown right now. Won the meet of champions as a sophomore and junior, finished second as a freshman and senior, 4-time Atlantic County champion. But that's the thing about high school sports. The beauty of high school sports is that someone always emerges. There's always somebody else in the pipeline. There's always somebody else coming on forward, and that'll start to tell itself today at the Cherokee Challenge. It's always interesting to scan those freshman results and say, there's a runner to kind of watch, keep your eye on, the rest of this season and the next 4 years.
Great stuff, as always, Mike. We can always count on you to bring your A game. Glad to have you back. Glad to be back on the air with you, and we'll catch up with you next week, buddy.
All right, guys. Great. Thanks for having me on, and have a good rest of the day. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mike.